The Renaissance saw it all: artistic innovation, advancements in learning, cultural transformation, and even a zombie apocalypse. Welcome back to Historical Horror, a series in which I draw upon my two absolute favorite subjects to bring you the strangest, creepiest, darkest tales from our past. So, Renaissance zombies. Let me set the scene real quick. It's 1494, and Charles VIII of France is the new big man in Europe. Charles decides to act on what is a very tenuous claim to the throne of the Kingdom of Naples, which is huge in this period, encompassing a fourth, maybe even a third of Italy, everything south of the Papal States. So Charles amasses a huge army, much of which is made up of mercenaries from all over Europe, and bulldozes his way into Italy. This campaign would unleash an unexpected horror on Europe. As they make their merry way down the peninsula, some of Charles's men begin exhibiting very strange, very concerning symptoms. Sores, pustules, lesions that go all the way down to the bone. As grotesque as these symptoms were, they weren't initially incapacitating. Soldiers were still able to march, to fight, but by the time they were at Naples' doorstep, the army looked like a straight-up horror show. Contemporary accounts describe soldiers with faces collapsing, with their noses literally rotting off, with bones peeking out from beneath open flesh wounds. All this, combined with the weary, shuffling gait of men who are understandably exhausted and diseased, creates a very disturbing visual. Witnesses describe them as resembling the Walking Dead. Literal Renaissance zombies. What is this nightmarish disease, you ask? Well, it's actually probably familiar to you. Today, we know it as syphilis. But back in Renaissance Europe, it was nicknamed the Great Pox, the Neapolitan disease, or the French disease, depending on who you asked. And it traveled fast, facilitated in large part by the army groupies that traveled with Charles's forces. When the French finally captured Naples after months of fierce fighting and exhausting travel, they really let their hair down. They went on the tear, they painted the town red, they partied too hard. And within days, Naples was overrun by a horde of shuffling syphilitic zombies. This wasn't a slow burn either. The first European wave of syphilis was insanely aggressive. Victims were described as being eaten alive from the inside out. Of course, no one could agree on what caused the outbreak. Divine punishment, poisoned wells, astrological misalignment were all posited. Even today, there's debate about whether the pox originated in Europe and had just gone undiagnosed until a mutation resulted in this particularly virulent outbreak, or whether it originated in the New World, an unwelcomed import from the Columbian Exchange. Syphilis in exchange for smallpox? Seems like a fair trade. One thing was clear: the disease was terrifying. So fast forward a bit. The Italians eventually get their shit together and they form a united league to repel the French invasion. Charles's men, many of whom are now too syphilitic to fight, are beaten back, and finally the Italians send the French packing. But remember, Charles's army wasn't only or even predominantly made up of Frenchmen. It comprised a huge number of mercenaries from Switzerland, Spain, Flanders, Gascony, even Italy. Traitors. And so when these guys packed up and went home, guess what they brought with them? France and its immediate neighbors got the first wave, of course. Within a couple years, it had spread to the British Isles, and from then on to Scandinavia, to Eastern Europe. Contemporary accounts estimate the death toll at the time at 1 million, and modern estimates put it closer to 5 million. So this was no joke. Within only 2 decades, the French, Neapolitan, Spanish, whoever's disease had spread to Asia and Oceania. Over time, the disease would mutate into a slower, less instantly and intensely grotesque form of itself. But for a while there, Renaissance Europe had its very own zombie apocalypse.